All right, well, severe weather season is here, and something we often see in Maine during this season is hail.
Yeah, meteorologist Christian Bridges joins us now to break down how it forms. I mean, first of all, what's the difference between hail and sleet?
That's right. Okay, so this is a big question that a lot of people have. And in the winter time when we're getting sleet, which are those bouncy little ice pellets, a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm seeing hail, or I think this is hail, or what is this? Yeah, there's a big difference between hail and all the other frozen precipitation types. So we can kind of put, snow, sleet, and freezing rain all in one family. And hail's like, a house down the street. So it's like a totally different thing when it comes to the way it forms. So sleet is snowflakes that fall through a warm layer in the atmosphere, and it refreezes into a little pellet of ice and then hits the ground. Whereas hail does not like cold weather. It likes to form in warm weather during a thunderstorm. So this is a convective thunderstorm process, whereas sleet is during a winter storm when we have snow that is melting and then refreezing. So we'll break down how hail forms in just a second here, but first I want to show you this picture. This is a picture of some large hail here in Maine back in 2020 in Kennebunk. This storm that swept through York County back in July 2020, I believe it was the 14th of the month, left a lot of hail. I'm going to show you some more pictures of this coming up in just a second. But first, let's talk about how we get the formation of hail. As I said, it's a thunderstorm. This is not in just plain old rain here. You definitely need a thunderstorm for this with an updraft. All thunderstorms have these. This is the upward current of air that makes the storm so tall in the sky, basically sustains them and keeps them going. And we need this updraft for hail to form. So we need water droplets. Of course, we've got plenty of those in a thunderstorm. The updraft sweeps those up into the air. It sweeps them up above the freezing level in the atmosphere, and then we get a formation of a little ball of ice. And the storm motion, the updraft, is very chaotic, so that forming hailstone goes up and down, and each time it goes down, it gets above freezing. It collects a layer of water on the outside, then it lifts above the freezing level. That water layer refreezes, goes back down, collects a new layer of water, lifts back up, refreezes, and you can see with hail, it forms sort of like an onion. It has layers. If you were to slice a big hailstone in half, most of the time you'll see those layers, that it's moving up and down in the cloud and gradually picking up water and then refreezing. So that updraft has to sustain, there we go, if I can say that, has to sustain that hailstone. So once it gets too heavy, depending on how strong that updraft is, then the hailstone will then fall to the ground. So if it's a really, really powerful storm, the updraft will be strong enough to keep it in the air for a long time, and then we get really, really big hailstones. If it's not a super strong storm, it doesn't keep it in the air for very long, and you might get, hail that's the size of a pea or something like that. So that's what it takes for the hailstone to fall down to the ground, and it's all about the updraft speed when it comes to the size of the hail. So again, the stronger the updraft, the bigger the hail will be. And here's how we typically size hail in the United States, all the way from pea through penny, up through quarter, which is usually when we start to talk about severe hail, quarter size or larger, 1 inch or larger. That's when we can start to see damage from hail, broken windows, that sort of thing, damaged roofs, that sort of thing as well. And then you really start to climb up into golf ball size, egg size, tennis ball, finally baseball, softball, and grapefruit size hail. The largest hailstone ever was volleyball size, you guys.
What?
So isn't that crazy?
Where
I
was
know.
that at?
Wow.
That was in Vivian, South Dakota in 2010. So yeah, isn't that crazy?
Even a grapefruit. I can't imagine all of these hail-sized grapefruits falling down from the sky. That could be,
I know, right?
dangerous.
Very dangerous, very deadly. Imagine if that
Yeah.
hits your car. I mean, your windshield.
Or
your,
you.
Or you, exactly. Yeah, that is very, very destructive. And we've actually seen almost grapefruit size hail right here in Maine. Here's a look at the largest hailstone that we've seen in the state. This fell on June 1st, 1986. It was 4.5 inches or so. So it was softball to grapefruit size. And it really hit Sebago, Naples, and Casco really, really hard back in 1986. And to wrap things up here, here's one final picture of some extreme hail that we've seen in Maine. This was back in 2020 in Sanford. It hailed so much that it accumulated in drifts on the ground. You can see they actually have the plow out there. They had to plow this parking lot to get these cars out. So that's also something that can happen when you get a really powerful storm. Sometimes you can get accumulating hail, which is really crazy.
It's crazy. I lived in Denver in the early 2000s. And I remember a huge storm came through.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I looked outside and I'm like, oh my God, Christmas in July.
Yeah.
I'm like, there was snow all over the place, and I was like, how did that happen? And then one of my neighbors had to explain to me. He goes, that's hail.
Yep.
And it looked like snow. There was so much on the ground. It looked like a big snowstorm had hit.
You know, and it's fascinating. Denver is the hail capital of the United States. So you lived in one of the most hail-prone places, not only in the U.S., but also on the entire planet, because it's right by the mountains there. It has access to cold air very easily up in the atmosphere. So any storm that forms there usually can produce some hail.
Yeah,
I
saw golf ball size hail, and that was scary.
I bet it was. Big hail is really scary, especially when you're in your house and you know that it's probably causing damage to your roof, making that loud noise. Yeah, not fun to deal with. So hopefully we don't see too much of it this year, but there hasn't been a year in Maine where we haven't seen at least some hail. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing some of that this summer.
All right, and if you have any weather-related questions you'd like to ask our Weather Authority team, you can email them at weather@wgme.com.